Captain Ryland stood in the dimly lit command center, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His fingers hovered over the control panel, the hum of the machinery filling the air. Before him was a massive screen, flickering with images of the Galactic Empire's fleet approaching Earth. A fleet so powerful, it had never known defeat. Yet today, it would face something it had never encountered before. Ryland's mind raced, trying to stay focused. The transmission he was about to send could mean the end of his life, but he couldn't let fear paralyze him. The Empire had to understand the severity of what was coming. Earth wasn't the helpless, insignificant planet it once was. It had prepared. It had grown stronger. And now it was ready to defend itself, no matter the cost. He cleared his throat, his voice calm but laced with urgency. As the transmission signal pinged, his words broke the silence, loud and clear across the galaxy. You have no idea what you're about to unleash. We're not the weaklings you think we are. Run or face annihilation. His message was simple, but its impact would be felt for years to come. The transmission traveled faster than light, reaching the ears of the Galactic Empire's leaders. Ryland knew this wasn't just a warning. It was a final chance for the Empire to turn back. But deep down, he knew they wouldn't. They had underestimated humanity for too long, and this was their mistake. As the message continued to echo across the galaxy, Ryland watched the screen flicker to life again. The face of the Galactic Empire's Supreme Commander appeared, his expression cold and dismissive. Earth's primitive defenses will be no match for us. Prepare for annihilation, human. The commander sneered before the transmission was cut off. Ryland's face tightened. He knew this would happen. The Empire had always seen humans as nothing more than pests, primitive, backward, and unworthy of attention. But what they didn't realize was that Earth had been preparing for this day for years, quietly building an army of warships that could rival the greatest forces in the galaxy. The camera pulled back, showing Earth from space. In the deep, dark vacuum of space, a sudden flurry of activity began. Beneath the planet's peaceful exterior, hidden military bases came to life. Cloaking devices shimmered into existence, their invisibility fields bending the light around them. Warships that had been waiting in silence for this moment powered up, their engines roaring to life, ready to defend Earth at any cost. Ryland's voice echoed in the background, urging his crew to prepare for battle. The image of Earth's military power slowly began to materialize, ships emerging from their cloaks, one by one. These were no ordinary warships. They were humanity's secret weapons, created in hidden labs across the planet. The ships had been designed with cutting-edge technology, far beyond anything the Galactic Empire had ever encountered. Each ship was equipped with cloaking devices that rendered them nearly invisible, advanced AI systems that could predict enemy movements before they happened, and devastating energy weapons capable of obliterating entire fleets. Ryland's heart pounded in his chest as he watched the fleet form. The time for diplomacy was over. This was war. On Earth's surface, soldiers scrambled to their posts, securing weapons and preparing for the conflict ahead. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for humanity's right to exist in the galaxy. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Every man and woman on the battlefield knew the importance of the mission. In the distance, the vast fleet of the Galactic Empire continued its advance. It was a terrifying sight. Thousands of massive warships, each one bristling with weapons of destruction. The Empire had always believed that no one could challenge its might. Now, they were about to learn the hard way that humanity was not as powerless as they thought. As the Empire's invasion fleet drew closer, the camera zoomed in on the advancing ships, each one a hulking mass of metal and weaponry. The commander of the fleet, a towering alien with pale blue skin and piercing red eyes, stared out at the screen, a look of disbelief crossing his face. He had heard the warning from Captain Ryland, but he hadn't taken it seriously. Now, as he saw Earth's fleet materializing before him, he realized the mistake he had made. "What is this?" he muttered, his voice barely a whisper, though it was heard by every member of his command crew. Impossible. The fleet's advance slowed. The commander's confusion deepened as he saw more and more of the warships materializing from thin air, their sleek, powerful forms glowing with an eerie light. These ships were unlike anything the Empire had ever seen before. They were built for speed, stealth, and firepower. The commander turned to his officers, his face twisted with anger. "Ready the fleet. We will crush them. They cannot stop us." But it was already too late. As the first wave of the Empire's ships began to advance toward Earth, the human fleet launched into action. The cloaking devices on the Earth's ships flickered, rendering the warships invisible once again. The Empire's fleet had no idea where the attack was coming from. The first blast hit the Empire's flagship with the force of a meteor strike, sending shockwaves through the ship. The flagship's shields were supposed to withstand any attack, but humanity's energy weapons, designed to pierce even the most advanced alien technology, slammed into the hull, sending it spiraling out of control. The Empire's fleet erupted into chaos as human warships emerged from their cloaks, striking from every direction. Humanity's ships didn't wait for the enemy to make a move. They took the fight directly to the invaders. The camera cuts to the Empire's flagship, where the commander's anger has turned to fear. His officers scrambled to issue commands, but the human warships were everywhere, outmaneuvering them at every turn. The commander barked orders, but the control panels were malfunctioning. His fleet was being torn apart by ships that shouldn't even exist. "Full retreat," the commander shouted, panic in his voice. "We underestimated them. Get us out of here." But the retreat was already too late. The human ships, faster and more agile, closed in on their targets. The Empire's fleet had made its move too early. They had ignored the warning and now found themselves caught in a trap of their own making. Back on Earth, Ryland stood at the heart of the battle, his eyes locked on the screen that showed the Empire's defeat. He had always known the fight would be tough, but watching it unfold in real time was still a surreal experience. He could feel the weight of his responsibility bearing down on him. This was humanity's moment to prove it belonged in the galaxy. The fleet had struck first, and the Empire's shock would be felt for a long time to come. But this was only the beginning. The war had just started, and there was no turning back now. As the final image of the Empire's flagship exploding in the distance fades into the backdrop, Ryland's voice echoes through the ship's command center once again. "We warned them. Now they will understand who they are truly dealing with." The battle for Earth had begun. The battle erupted in a flash. Earth's warships emerged from their cloaking fields like ghosts in the dark, their sleek forms now visible in the depths of space. In the blink of an eye, humanity's secret weapons were unleashed, sending shockwaves through the Empire's massive fleet. The first shots were fired, and the Empire was caught off guard. As the laser blasts tore through the silence of space, Ryland watched from his flagship, a feeling of anticipation mixing with adrenaline. His hands were steady, despite the chaos unfolding before him. The stakes couldn't be higher, but Earth's technology, years of hidden research and development, was about to show the Galactic Empire exactly what humanity was capable of. The first salvo hit the Empire's flagship, a behemoth of metal and alien technology that had once been thought invincible. But as the barrage of laser fire connected with its hull, the mighty ship was crippled in an instant. Explosions lit up the darkened void of space, casting eerie shadows as massive chunks of debris were sent flying in every direction. The once imposing flagship now floated helplessly, disabled, its shields barely holding together. The Empire's commanders were in a state of shock. The Supreme Commander's voice, once filled with arrogance and confidence, trembled as he called for damage reports. "What? How could this happen? How could they have such power?" he muttered, his disbelief palpable. His eyes scanned the wreckage of their flagship, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. In the command room, officers scrambled to figure out how humanity had kept such devastating technology hidden for so long. Their minds raced to understand the scale of the damage. No one in the Empire had ever imagined that Earth could possess such advanced technology. Humanity had been dismissed as primitive and weak, nothing more than a nuisance at best. Now, the Empire was learning just how wrong they had been. Ryland's voice crackled through the communication channels, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding around him. "This is only the beginning," he said, his voice carrying through the fleet. "We warned you. You should have listened." As Ryland spoke, the battle intensified. Earth's warships engaged the Empire's forces in high-speed dogfights, with the camera zooming in on the action. The sleek human ships darted through space with unbelievable agility, their AI systems working in perfect synchronization with the pilots. The AI predicted enemy movements, countered their every maneuver, and directed the ships with surgical precision. Ryland's flagship led the charge, cutting through the void with unrelenting force. The AI onboard anticipated every move the enemy made, giving Earth's warships an edge in the battle. The Empire's fleet, though powerful, couldn't keep up with the rapid pace of the fight. Every move they made was countered by Earth's ships, and every attempt to strike back was thwarted by the advanced technology humanity had spent years perfecting. The camera followed Ryland as he maneuvered his flagship with expert precision, weaving through enemy fire. Explosions filled the sky as debris rained down, adding to the intensity of the scene. Laser beams crossed in the air, lighting up the battlefield as ships collided, torn apart by energy blasts. But it wasn't just the firepower that made Earth's warships so deadly. It was the strategic brilliance of their commanders, combined with the superior AI that guided their every move. Ryland's mind worked in overdrive, analyzing the situation and making split-second decisions. The AI on board his ship was constantly feeding in data, offering suggestions and calculating the best course of action. It was as though the ship itself had become an extension of his thoughts, moving in perfect harmony with his commands. The Empire's fleet was scrambling to adapt, their commanders desperate to regain control. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't overcome the speed, power, and precision of Earth's forces. Each time they launched an attack, they found themselves facing an impenetrable defense or a devastating counterstrike. Their ships, once feared throughout the galaxy, were now outclassed and outmaneuvered by humanity's hidden might. One of the Empire's warships, a massive destroyer, attempted to close in on Ryland's flagship. The ship was armed with heavy laser cannons and missile launchers, but it couldn't match the speed and agility of Earth's vessels. As the destroyer fired its weapons, Ryland's flagship dipped and rolled, dodging the blasts with ease. The AI predicted the trajectory of the missiles before they were even launched, allowing Ryland to maneuver his ship with deadly accuracy. In one swift motion, the flagship returned fire. The laser beams streaked through space, slamming into the Empire's destroyer with a force that seemed to bend the very fabric of the cosmos. The destroyer's shields cracked under the intense pressure, and within seconds, the entire ship exploded in a fiery ball of energy. The blast was so intense that the shockwave sent debris scattering in all directions, engulfing smaller Empire ships in its wake. The scene was nothing short of chaotic as Earth's warships closed in on the remaining Empire forces. The once proud fleet of the Galactic Empire was now a scattered mess, with ships being picked off one by one. The cameras captured the destruction, showing ships being torn apart by the relentless barrage of laser fire, their hulls exploding into massive clouds of debris. The dark expanse of space was filled with flashes of light and the soundless screams of the dying warships. Despite the destruction, the Empire's commanders refused to give up. They scrambled to reorganize their forces, sending out distress signals to their reinforcements. But Earth's ships were relentless, tracking every move the Empire made and countering their every attempt to regroup. The Empire was trapped, outmatched, and outclassed by a force they had never anticipated. Ryland's flagship led the charge, its engines roaring as it tore through the battlefield. He could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him, but he remained focused. His crew was working in perfect harmony with the AI systems, their every move calculated and precise. The battle was far from over, but the first wave of humanity's hidden might had already dealt a devastating blow to the Empire's forces. With each passing moment, Ryland's confidence grew. The Empire had underestimated humanity's strength, and now they were paying the price. The Galactic Empire's fleet, once thought unbeatable, was being dismantled piece by piece, and Earth's forces were proving that they were a force to be reckoned with. As the dust began to settle, Ryland's voice came through the comms once again, his tone steady but filled with conviction. "This is just the beginning. We won't stop until we've shown the Empire that humanity is not to be underestimated. We fight for our survival, and we will not back down." The camera zoomed out, showing the remnants of the Empire's once mighty fleets scattered across the battlefield. Explosions continued to light up the sky as Earth's warships moved in for the final strike. The Galactic Empire had made its first mistake, and now it would pay the price for underestimating humanity. The battle was far from over, but Earth had already proven one thing. The Galactic Empire had never faced anything like humanity's hidden might, and they would soon learn that Earth was a force they could never hope to conquer. The once confident Empire, shaken by the fury of humanity's initial assault, quickly realized the full extent of their miscalculation. Their flagship was down, their pride wounded, and their forces scattered. But the Galactic Empire was not easily defeated. It responded to Earth's unexpected show of strength with overwhelming force. Reinforcements arrived in droves. Massive warships, countless robotic soldiers, and devastating weapons systems designed to crush any resistance. The Empire's fleet now surged forward, charging toward Earth's remaining forces with a newfound determination. These reinforcements were equipped with the latest and most advanced weapons, huge energy cannons capable of obliterating entire fleets, robotic soldiers with razor-sharp weapons, and ships with reinforced shields that seemed impenetrable. The stage was set for a massive confrontation, one that would test humanity's will to survive. But what the Empire failed to understand was the depth of humanity's ability to adapt. With every strike, Earth's forces shifted tactics, continuously staying one step ahead. The human warships, still equipped with cloaking devices, darted in and out of the shadows, using their speed and agility to outmaneuver the larger, slower Empire ships. The cloaking technology allowed them to appear out of nowhere, striking at vulnerable points and vanishing before the enemy could retaliate. It was as though the humans were ghosts in the night, always present but never truly visible. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, human soldiers engaged in close-quarters combat aboard enemy vessels. The sight was chaotic and intense, with human forces boarding the massive Empire ships and fighting their way through corridors filled with alien soldiers. Blasters fired in all directions, the air crackling with energy as soldiers clashed in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The Empire's robotic soldiers were a sight to behold, their metallic limbs moving with terrifying precision as they tore through alien forces with brutal efficiency. The camera cuts to one of the boarding teams as they storm an Empire warship, their weapons blazing as they cut through the enemy defenses. The Empire's soldiers, once thought to be invincible, now struggled against the human soldiers' relentless assault. The humans were not only better equipped, but they had something the Empire's soldiers lacked: the drive to survive, to protect their home, and to fight for each other. As the humans pressed forward, the Empire's grip on the warship began to weaken, and victory seemed within reach. However, amidst the chaos, a sudden explosion shook the battlefield. The shockwave sent debris flying, and alarms blared as the human forces struggled to maintain control. Captain Ryland's voice came through the comms, calm but filled with urgency. "Everyone, fall back. Get to the escape pods." But as the soldiers began to retreat, Lieutenant Bonner, Ryland's closest friend and most trusted ally, made a decision that would change everything. Bonner was in the middle of leading a critical mission to secure one of the Empire's most heavily defended ships. As the human forces moved deeper into the heart of the enemy vessel, they encountered a dangerous obstacle, a massive explosive device planted in the ship's core, rigged to destroy the flagship and anyone nearby. Bonner, with his characteristic bravery, realized that the only way to prevent the destruction of Earth's forces was to disable the device. Without hesitation, Bonner made the ultimate sacrifice. He stayed behind, ensuring that the others had time to escape. With a grim look in his eyes, he activated a detonation charge, which triggered an explosion powerful enough to wipe out the device, but at the cost of his life. The blast threw Ryland to the ground, and for a moment, everything went silent. The rest of the soldiers, realizing what had happened, rushed to escape as Bonner's final moments played out in their minds. The explosion on the Empire's ship caused a chain reaction that crippled the alien vessel, sending it into a spiraling descent. But the true cost was felt by Rylan and the human forces as they witnessed Bonner's death. Rylan, in particular, was struck to the core. Bonner had been more than a colleague. He had been a brother in arms. And now he was gone. The grief and rage surged within Ryland's chest, an overwhelming wave of emotion that pushed him forward. He knew that Bonner had sacrificed his life for the survival of the human race, and that knowledge fueled his desire for vengeance. "We won't let his sacrifice be in vain," Ryland said, his voice tight with emotion. The loss of his friend had ignited something within him, a fire that would not be extinguished until the Galactic Empire paid for its actions. The humans, though battered and bruised, pushed forward with renewed determination. They fought with everything they had, driven not only by the need to survive, but also by the memory of Bonner's sacrifice. The Empire had underestimated the strength of the human spirit, and now they would feel the full force of humanity's wrath. The battle raged on, a chaotic storm of blasters, explosions, and laser fire. Human soldiers continued to board enemy vessels, their advanced weapons and AI systems giving them an edge in the tight corridors of the alien ships. The camera panned across the battlefield, showing Earth's forces adapting to every new threat. They had no choice but to evolve, to outthink and outmaneuver their enemies at every turn. As Ryland led the charge into the heart of the Empire's fleet, his mind was focused on one thing: revenge. He would make the Empire pay for Bonner's death. Every blast, every destroyed ship was a step closer to fulfilling that promise. His flagship, once again at the forefront of the battle, moved with precision and deadly intent. The AI on board worked tirelessly, predicting enemy movements and countering them before they could even begin to execute their attacks. The camera zoomed in on Ryland's face as he stared into the heart of the battle, the weight of Bonner's death pushing him forward. His hands gripped the controls of the flagship, his eyes locked on the task ahead. There was no turning back now. He had seen the true face of the Empire, and there would be no mercy for them. The battle intensified, with the human forces showing no signs of slowing down. The Empire's reinforcements, though formidable, were slowly being overwhelmed by the relentless assault. Earth's warships continued to move with unmatched agility, cutting down the Empire's forces one by one. As the battle raged on, the humans proved that they were not the underdogs. They were survivors, and they would fight until the last of them was standing. The emotional weight of Bonner's sacrifice hung over every soldier, every captain, and every warship. The humans were no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting for justice, and they would stop at nothing until the Galactic Empire was brought to its knees. The war between the Galactic Empire and humanity had reached a fever pitch. What had started as an attempt by the Empire to crush Earth's forces and claim dominance had now transformed into a brutal battle for survival, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, the Empire's leaders were beginning to realize that they had made a monumental mistake. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity. For centuries, they had regarded Earth and its inhabitants as nothing more than primitive creatures, easily conquerable by the might of their technologically superior forces. They had assumed that their superior weapons, robots, and fleets of warships would quickly and decisively wipe out any resistance. But as the battle continued to unfold, it became clearer that humanity was far from weak. The humans, with their advanced AI systems, cloaking technology, and relentless determination, had proven to be more formidable than the Empire could ever have anticipated. The Empire's commanders watched in disbelief as their fleets were torn apart by the human forces. Every time they thought they had the upper hand, humanity found a way to turn the tide. Adapting quickly to their ever-evolving tactics, the Empire's once invincible warships were now taking heavy damage, their energy shields failing and their commanders struggling to regroup. The Empire had made a terrible miscalculation, and now it was too late to retreat. In a desperate bid to regain control, the Empire turned to their most powerful weapon, an eye-controlled supership. This weapon was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a massive planet-destroying warship equipped with the most advanced artificial intelligence ever created. The supership had the ability to wipe out entire cities with a single blast, and its weaponry could destroy entire fleets in seconds. It was the Empire's last hope, their final answer to the human rebellion. As the supership powered up, its engines glowed with an eerie light, and its massive hull began to descend toward Earth. The AI aboard the supership was programmed with one mission: annihilate Earth. Its vast array of weapons, including planet-killing missiles and orbital bombardment lasers, was designed to leave no survivors. The Empire's commanders watched from their flagship, confident that this weapon would finally crush humanity's resistance. But what the Empire didn't know was that Earth's forces had an answer of their own. Humanity's AI systems, though not as advanced as the Empire's supership, had been upgraded with years of research and development, and they were more than capable of handling the supership's onslaught. As the supership descended toward Earth, humanity's AI systems sprang into action, ready to defend the planet. The tension was palpable as the massive AI-controlled warship fired its first orbital bombardment. Bright streaks of light shot through the sky as missiles rained down on Earth's cities. The camera zoomed in on the planet's surface, showing explosions lighting up the night sky as entire cities were reduced to rubble. Buildings crumbled and fires erupted in every direction. It seemed as though the Empire's weapon would bring the human race to its knees. But then, in a moment of sheer brilliance, humanity's AI intercepted the missiles mid-flight. A network of human-controlled defense satellites, enhanced by AI algorithms, activated and launched countermeasures at the incoming bombardment. The missiles were shot down before they could make contact with the Earth's surface, the explosions lighting up the sky in a dazzling display of destruction. As the countermeasures successfully destroyed the missiles, the human forces rallied. The destruction caused by the Empire's orbital bombardment was devastating, but it had not been enough to bring humanity to the brink of extinction. The Empire's eye was powerful, but humanity's eye was resourceful and fast, able to adapt to the Empire's tactics and counter every move. The camera panned over the battlefield, showing Earth's warships launching coordinated counterattacks. Humanity's fleet moved with precision, dodging the Empire's retaliatory strikes and using advanced cloaking technology to stay one step ahead. Earth's forces were not just fighting with advanced weapons, they were fighting with intelligence, with heart, and with the determination to protect their home. Meanwhile, Captain Rylan, who had been overseeing the battle from his flagship, was filled with a renewed sense of hope. He had seen humanity's eye work wonders in the past, but now, watching as the Empire's greatest weapon was neutralized by human ingenuity, he knew that victory was within their grasp. The Empire had come to Earth thinking they were the superior force, but it was becoming increasingly clear that humans would not be so easily defeated. With each move, the Empire was being forced into a corner, their once confident tactics now being outsmarted at every turn. Ryland's flagship fired a barrage of energy blasts at one of the Empire's remaining warships, sending it spiraling into space. The human forces, despite their smaller numbers, had now become a formidable force to be reckoned with. They had shown that they were capable of fighting on equal terms with the Empire, even when faced with overwhelming odds. The camera zoomed out to reveal the Empire's flagship, the heart of their operation, now under heavy attack. The once massive fleet, which had seemed invincible just hours before, was now crumbling under the pressure of humanity's relentless assault. The Empire's commanders scrambled to regroup, but the tide of battle had already shifted. The human forces, armed with advanced AI and innovative technology, had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with, and the Empire's leaders finally understood that their empire was no longer untouchable. As the supership continued its descent toward Earth, the battle between the two AI systems intensified. Humanity's AI, aware of the Empire's final weapon, fought tooth and nail to intercept every attack. The visuals were breathtaking, with lasers crisscrossing through space, energy shields shimmering as they absorbed the impact of the enemy's weapons. Every missile launched by the Empire was met with a swift and deadly counterattack from Earth's defense systems. It was a fight not just between ships and soldiers, but between two of the most advanced artificial intelligences the galaxy had ever seen. Despite the Empire's overwhelming firepower, humanity's AI held its ground. The Empire's supership, for all its power, was not invincible. It had one major flaw. It was overly reliant on its AI, which had failed to account for the creativity and adaptability of humanity's systems. While the Empire's AI was designed to destroy, humanity's AI was designed to protect, to preserve, and to adapt to the ever-changing battlefield. As the final missile from the Empire's supership was intercepted, Rylan knew that the battle was far from over. But for the first time since the conflict began, he allowed himself to believe that victory was within reach. The tide had turned, and humanity was no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for victory. And they had one key advantage: their ability to adapt, to think outside the box, and to outsmart an empire that had underestimated them from the very beginning. The Empire had unleashed its deadliest weapon, but it had not counted on the human spirit. And now, that spirit was driving humanity to the edge of victory. The battle between the Galactic Empire and humanity had raged for what seemed like an eternity, but as the human fleet began to dwindle, Captain Rylan knew that the end was near. The Empire's forces, though battered, were still relentless, and the fight was far from over. Yet, in the midst of it all, Rylan's resolve had never wavered. He had led his men and women with unwavering courage. And now, with the final assault on the Empire's flagship on the horizon, he knew that the time had come to strike a decisive blow. The Empire's flagship was the heart of their operation. It was a colossal ship, brimming with the might of the Empire. Inside its steel walls, the leader of the Empire, a cold-hearted alien general, waited. He was the mastermind behind the invasion, the one who had ordered the destruction of Earth's cities and had thought that humanity would be nothing more than a fleeting obstacle. He had underestimated them, and now he would pay the price for his arrogance. As the human fleet prepared for the final assault, Rylan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the unfolding battle. The once mighty human fleet, now battered and reduced in numbers, was ready for one last strike. The final battle would take place on the Empire's flagship, the ultimate symbol of the Empire's power. Rylan knew that this would be the most dangerous mission of his life, but he also knew that it was their only chance to end the war. "Captain, we're ready to launch," one of Rylan's officers called out from across the bridge. "The last wave of fighters is prepared for deployment." Rylan nodded grimly. "This is it. We push forward, no matter what. If we don't take down that flagship, everything we fought for will have been in vain." As the order was given, the remaining human warships surged forward, their engines blazing as they hurtled toward the Empire's flagship. The air was thick with tension, and every officer on the bridge could feel the weight of what was to come. This was the final push, the moment that would decide the fate of Earth and the future of the galaxy. As Rylan's fleet closed in on the Empire's flagship, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The human forces had already proven themselves capable of great things, but this was the ultimate test. With their remaining strength, they would board the Empire's ship and take the fight directly to the heart of their enemy's operation. Ryland's ship docked with the Empire's flagship with a resounding crash. The moment the docking clamps were engaged, the humans poured into the enemy vessel, their weapons ready for the brutal combat that awaited them. The sounds of battle echoed through the corridors as human soldiers, armed with advanced weapons and cloaking technology, infiltrated the massive ship. They were outnumbered, but they were not afraid. They had the element of surprise on their side, and they knew that this was the last chance to win the war. As Ryland led the charge, he felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had been in countless battles, but this one was different. This wasn't just about strategy or technology, it was personal. The alien general who had ordered the destruction of Earth's cities was waiting for him at the heart of the Empire's flagship, and Ryland knew that he would not rest until the general had been brought to justice. The corridors of the Empire's flagship were dark, filled with the echoing sounds of boots hitting metal floors. Ryland's soldiers moved with precision, their cloaking technology allowing them to slip past enemy patrols unnoticed. As they advanced, they encountered pockets of resistance. Empire soldiers, heavily armed and ready to defend their ship to the death. The humans fought back with fierce determination, using every advantage they had to overpower the Empire's forces. The deeper they went into the flagship, the more intense the fighting became. But Ryland's mind was focused on one thing: the alien general. He had to get to him. The fate of Earth, the survival of humanity, rested on this final confrontation. It was a battle that would define everything. Finally, they'd reached the heart of the ship, the control room where the alien general awaited. The door was massive, reinforced with layers of energy shielding and thick metal, but Ryland knew they couldn't waste any more time. He motioned to his team to breach the door. With a single, well-placed strike, the door exploded open, and Ryland stepped into the control room, his weapon raised and ready. There, standing in the center of the room, was the alien general, tall, imposing, and cold-eyed, with an aura of menace that seemed to fill the entire room. His expression was one of disdain, as though he had already won. He looked at Ryland with an air of superiority, as if he could not comprehend how this human had made it this far. "You," the general sneered, "I should have crushed your species when I had the chance. But now you come to me like a pet, desperate for a last fight." Ryland didn't respond. Instead, he lunged forward, his weapon flashing as he aimed for the general's chest. But the general was quick, dodging the strike with unnatural speed. He countered with a brutal punch, sending Ryland crashing into the wall. The force of the blow knocked the wind out of him, but Ryland gritted his teeth and pushed through the pain. This wasn't over. Not yet. The battle between Ryland and the general was nothing short of brutal. They exchanged blows in close quarters, each strike carrying the weight of everything they had fought for. The sound of fists hitting flesh echoed through the room as they battled for dominance. The general was stronger, his alien physiology giving him an advantage in terms of raw power, but Ryland had something the general didn't: human ingenuity. As the fight wore on, Ryland began to improvise, using the surroundings to his advantage. He activated a set of old, discarded weapons hidden around the control room, makeshift explosives and traps that he had designed to catch the Empire off guard. He knew the general's arrogance would be his undoing. As the general advanced, Ryland triggered one of the traps, sending the alien reeling backward. With the general temporarily stunned, Ryland saw his opening. He rushed forward, using the last of his strength to deliver a decisive strike to the general's chest. The impact was like a thunderclap, and with a final powerful blow, the alien general collapsed, his lifeless body crumpling to the floor. Ryland stood over him, panting and covered in sweat, but he felt no relief. The war was not over, but this victory was symbolic. The leader of the Empire had been defeated, and the flagship was now in human hands. The message had been sent to the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. As Ryland looked out over the control room, his soldiers slowly began to regroup. The battle was won, but there was still much to do. The Empire's fleet was scattered, and Earth's future was now in their hands. The struggle had been long, and the cost had been high, but humanity had proven its worth. With the destruction of the Empire's flagship, humanity had sent a powerful message to the galaxy. They were not weak. They were not to be conquered, and they would never give up. The war was over, but the real journey for humanity was just beginning. The battle had been long and fierce, and as the smoke cleared and the Empire's flagship lay in ruins, a strange silence fell across the battlefield. The once mighty forces of the Galactic Empire, shattered and broken, began to retreat in disarray. The humans had emerged victorious, but it was a victory marked by sacrifice and loss. Earth's warships had been battered, and many lives had been lost in the heat of battle. The cost of this war was not something that could be easily forgotten. Captain Ryland stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring out at the wreckage of the Empire's forces. His heart was heavy with both pride and sorrow. The Empire had been defeated, their forces scattered, their once invincible flagship reduced to nothing more than a lifeless hulk in the vastness of space. Yet, as he gazed at the destruction, Ryland couldn't shake the feeling of loss that weighed on him. So many of his comrades had died, and for what? To ensure that humanity would never again be underestimated by the rest of the galaxy. Among the fallen was Lieutenant Bonner, Ryland's close friend, and one of the bravest soldiers he had ever known. Bonner had given his life during one of the most critical moments of the battle, sacrificing himself to protect the flagship from an explosion that would have taken them all. Ryland had been there when Bonner had made that choice, and the pain of losing him was something that would stay with him forever. The humans had won, yes, but the victory felt hollow. The cheers and celebrations that might have followed a typical triumph seemed absent. The price had been too high. Ryland walked slowly through the hallways of the flagship, passing by soldiers who had fought valiantly but now stood in silence, too exhausted and grieving to celebrate. The weight of their shared loss hung heavily in the air. As the human fleet made its way back to Earth, the survivors gathered to honor their fallen comrades. A memorial ceremony was held, and the entire crew, along with the citizens of Earth who had been following the war from afar, came together to remember the heroes who had given their lives to ensure humanity's survival. The ceremony was somber, but it was also filled with a deep sense of pride. They had faced an empire that had believed them to be weak, insignificant, and easily crushed, yet they had stood their ground, and now the galaxy would know that humanity was not to be trifled with. Ryland stood before the crowd, his face solemn, his eyes scanning the faces of the people he had fought to protect. He took a deep breath before speaking, his voice carrying the weight of everything they had been through. "This was not just a victory for us," Ryland began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "It was a message to the galaxy. Never again will we be underestimated. We fought against an empire that thought it could crush us, that thought it could wipe us out without a second thought. But we showed them what humanity is capable of. We are strong, we are resilient, and we will never back down. Our victory may have come at a great cost, but we honor the lives of those we lost by ensuring that their sacrifice was not in vain." The crowd was silent, listening intently as Ryland spoke. His words resonated with each and every person there. They had all lost something in this war: friends, family, comrades, but they had won something even more important. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated, that they would not be treated as weak, and that they were capable of standing against the greatest powers in the universe. As Ryland finished his speech, the crowd erupted in a quiet, respectful applause. It wasn't the loud, celebratory cheer that would normally follow a victory, but it was enough. The humans had proven their strength, their resolve, and their willingness to sacrifice everything for their future. The Empire had been defeated, but the scars of the war would stay with them forever. While the survivors mourned the loss of their loved ones, they also began to rebuild. Earth was a planet that had been forever changed by the war, but the people who had lived through it were stronger for it. They had faced their darkest hour and emerged victorious, and now they would prepare for the future. The Empire was gone, but there were other powers in the galaxy, and humanity would have to be ready for whatever came next. Far from Earth, in the heart of the Galactic Council, a transmission was received. The leaders of the Galactic Council watched the message from Earth with a mixture of disbelief and concern. They had witnessed the fall of the Empire, and now they understood the true power of humanity. The transmission from Earth was simple, yet powerful. Humanity is not to be trifled with. Beware the underdog. The words echoed through the halls of the Galactic Council, and a quiet murmur rippled through the leaders. The Empire had been their greatest ally, their most powerful member, and now it was gone. In its place, a new power had emerged: humanity. They were no longer the fragile species that had once been ignored. They had shown the galaxy that they were capable of achieving the impossible, of standing up against forces far greater than themselves. As the transmission ended, the leaders of the Galactic Council exchanged uneasy glances. They knew that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. The humans had proven that they could defeat even the most advanced civilizations, and they were now a force to be reckoned with. No longer would they be the underdog. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, and the rest of the galaxy would have to take notice. On Earth, the survivors celebrated their hard-won victory, but they knew that this was only the beginning. The Empire had been defeated, but there were other challenges on the horizon. The galaxy was a vast and complex place, filled with civilizations both ancient and advanced. Humanity would have to face them all, and it would take everything they had learned from this war to survive the challenges ahead. Raylan stood once again, looking out over the horizon as Earth's cities slowly began to rebuild. The war had been won, but the journey was far from over. There was a new strength in humanity now, a strength forged in the fires of war and tempered by loss. And as long as they remembered the sacrifices that had been made, they would never again be underestimating. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was ready for whatever came next.